Hi everyone! In this video I'll be sharing some essential soap making safety information. Since I started adding soap making videos to this channel, it's grown quite a lot and I have really wanted to have a place or have a video that I could direct newcomers to that would just give them a really good overview of what's important to know about soap making before you start. And the reason why this is important is that one of the key ingredients in making soap is this stuff. Caustic soda, otherwise known as sodium hydroxide for bar soap, and another type of hydroxide called potassium hydroxide, which is used for liquid soaps. Now, these hydroxides are highly corrosive and caustic alkaline substances. Sodium hydroxide comes in a bead kind of granular form, and potassium hydroxide comes in flakes, and when they are mixed with water you form a lye solution, and it's that caustic lye solution that then, when it's emulsified with the base oils of the soap recipe, that sets off a chemical reaction called saponification, and it's that reaction that transforms the oils and the lye, it's two separate things, into a third thing, which is soap. So that's how soap is made, basically. So handmade soap is perfectly safe to use. Once it's fully saponified, it is no longer caustic to a dangerous level like this stuff is. But obviously we need to handle this to make the soap. So we've got to make sure that we understand what's involved in that and how to protect ourselves and the people around us properly. As a soap maker, whether it's just you at home, making soaps for your family to use or for yourself, or you're a professional soap maker or whatever it is your responsibility to make sure that you understand this stuff properly and to make sure that you have educated yourself as best as you possibly can and know what to do in order to keep yourself and all of the people and animals and whoever else is around you safe while you're making soap. That's your job. My job as a YouTube soap maker is to try and share as good a quality information as I can with you, but you can't take my word for everything. I'm human. I'm not professionally qualified as a soap maker. I'm actually not a professional soap maker. There are some great YouTube soap makers who are. Katie from Royalty Soaps is really amazing, and her soap making safety video is brilliant, so I'll put a link to that below. Check that one out too. So I'm going to go through all the recommended PPE, personal protective equipment, which is really important for soap making. But before I do that, I just want to bring your attention to this document. This is one I got from an Australian government link from ChemWatch. This is the material safety data sheet for sodium hydroxide according to a number of companies who sell sodium hydroxide, and that's the one that you use for bar soap making. Any company selling caustic soda, sodium hydroxide for soap making needs to be able to provide you with a material safety data sheet, and ideally everybody should have their hands on one of these and should read it thoroughly before they make soap, because you know, you can watch YouTube videos and pretty much get the basics, but I think we do have a responsibility to fully understand what's required. If you are a soap making business, it is essential, and it's against the law in many countries not to have proper workplace health and safety mechanisms in place, which include protecting you and any people who work for you with the proper protective equipment, and they all need to have the understanding of what they need to know about these materials as well. So you can request a material safety data sheet from your lye supplier. I just buy my lye from the hardware. This is just Boondall brand caustic soda from Bunnings. I also buy, I think it's White Tulip brand, just from the supermarket, but I really only make soap for my videos, and I'm just making small batches just for personal use. The other thing that's really important too is to make sure that you've got the phone number for the Poisons Information Centre in your state or your country. Make sure you've got that near you. Stick it on the fridge on a sticky note, or write it on a piece of cardboard in dark felt tip pen and put it in with your soap making equipment. make sure you've got that number handy, because if there is ever any accident, and it's probably quite unlikely, but it is good to have that number around, because if any accident happens, you need to get the right advice about what to do. For those of you who live in countries around the world that might not have poisons information centres, and you may not even have easy access to a local doctor, I'm not sure. I know that I have contact with people from all over the world, and many people live in countries where some of the health systems aren't the same as they are in Australia or America or the UK, and those services aren't as accessible, and safety equipment isn't as accessible either for a lot of people. So if you're living in countries where this stuff isn't available, you can get this off the internet, by the way. You can look up material safety data sheets for sodium hydroxide and just read that. Educate yourself as best as you can and do the best that you can. I think knowledge is power in this situation. Whatever your circumstances are, you may not be able to meet the gold standard, but our soap making business could be a really important livelihood for you, and you really want to do it, and I really want to encourage you in that. But you'll, I guess, have a greater responsibility to try and work with the challenges of your situation if you don't have all of these things available to you. The first thing that I think is really important for soap makers to know in terms of safety is to manage your environment. Think about where you're going to make your soap. Is it in your house? Do you have a workshop or a shed somewhere? Not only do you need some space and some room to make your soap, and you need equipment and bowls and all that sort of stuff, but I strongly encourage you to make your soap in a place that is near a sink or a tap. You need to have fresh running water handy, because if you do get a little bit of a soap spill on you, or even a big spill, you need to be near water to wash it off very thoroughly. That's really important. I have heard stories of one woman in particular who made soap down in her carport area because she wanted to stay away from children in the house, but she had a big spill and got lye splashed over her clothing and was worried about pets outside getting near it, so she tried to make everything safe outside. But by the time she had left outside and got inside to where she could get in the shower and get the clothes off and wash herself, she had suffered some severe burns to her skin. So I would not suggest doing that. Really think about trying to have as a controlled and kind of lab-like environment as you can at home. Depending on their ages, talk to them about what you're doing. Let them know that this is serious stuff, that you are making soap and there's nothing wrong with soap and it's a wonderful thing, but you've got to use these chemicals that require safe handling practices in order to make the soap. Explain it to them. Let them know how serious it is and that they need to stay away. If you've got young children who you can't trust to follow, that advice just because they're too young, try and make your soap when they're not home. Try and get somebody else to look after them or supervise them so that they don't come in and try and check out what you're doing. You don't want to have any distractions when you're making soap. You want to really enjoy it and be confident and not have to worry about anybody else getting in the way and potentially, having a spill or having some sort of unsafe situation. If, on the other hand, you want to invite somebody to be a part of your soap making, you've got a friend over and you want to show them, they must have all of the personal protective equipment as well as you. If you've got pets, depending on your pets, you know them. I can't give you blanket advice on this, but if you've got a pet who, might be a bit excited about you doing something in the kitchen, I don't know. Dogs are a bit more excitable than cats. Put them outside or put them in another room, or try and get another family member to supervise them and make sure they don't come in and distract you or want to get into the area. You need to keep them away as well and keep them safe. One thing I do with my husband or friends or anybody else who might be in the house when I want to make soap is I pay them the respect of preparing them and negotiating with them what they want to do in the kitchen for the day and what I want to do, just so that everybody's on the same page and they're happy and you're happy for you to have the kitchen or whatever area it is you're using to yourself at that point in time. Alright, I want to talk about eye protection. The eyes are probably the most vulnerable part of you when it comes to making soap and dealing with hydroxide solutions. When you make soap, probably many of you already know, your sodium hydroxide for bar soap or your potassium hydroxide for liquid soap, they are added to water or to other liquids, and through that process of making that lye solution, you've got a really caustic liquid, so you need to make sure your eyes are protected. If you get lye, whether it's a little bead of this stuff, you spill some of this and it bounces, they bounce quite high. If that bounced and a little bit got in your eye, or if you were making your lye solution and a bit splashed, or somehow you made a mistake and a little bit, splattered up, or you got a bit of vapor in your eye, first you need to wash your eye with fresh water for at least 15 minutes and then seek medical attention. See a doctor, call the Poisons Information Centre, get your eye seen to. But to prevent that from happening, you need to wear goggles at a minimum. I used to wear these safety glasses for a long time. That's all I wore, and they're a lot better than nothing, but there's a couple of issues with these. Number one, they don't go on top of your other glasses, so if you, like me, I actually need these glasses to be able to see what I'm doing really clearly, and these just, they don't fit over the top. Even if you don't wear glasses, they're pretty good, but you do have gaps underneath the bottom. So if there was a splash or one of these little beads bounced up, there is a chance that it could get underneath and into your eye. So instead of those, and again, not everybody in every country is going to be able to get this stuff, do the best that you can. But I highly recommend goggles. These goggles, not only do they fit over the top of my glasses completely, so I can see everything, these are chemical resistant plastic that the lens is made out of, and also you can see it seals. If I put the elastic on, here we go, it seals completely around my face, seals really well, so there's no way that anything can splash up and get anywhere near my eyes. So I'm fully confident that I am super safe and ready to go with wearing these. These are also ventilated as well, so they do breathe, they're not going to fog up, they're really good. You can also wear a full face shield, and I had one of those, but I found I couldn't see very clearly through it, so I don't use that. Next, I want to talk about skin protection. So your hands are probably the most part of you that's at risk of coming into contact with lye when you're making soap. So you must wear gloves. You need to wear either rubber or plastic gloves, and according to the material safety data sheet, the longer the better. In industrial chemistry situations, they recommend elbow length gloves, but long kitchen gloves like this are okay. You've probably seen in my videos, I often just use these small disposable latex rubber gloves. They're okay too. They're better than nothing. They're going to stop getting lye on your hands and your fingers. You can also get these nitrile gloves, which are a bit tougher. These are a bit tougher than these, but these work really good as well. The beauty of disposable gloves is that you don't have to worry about cleaning them before you reuse them. You just peel them off inside out, wrap them up in some paper towel, keep them nice and safe, and put them in the bin. If you want to use reusable kitchen gloves like this too, again, do your own research and make up your own decisions about this. I'm not the expert, I'm just trying to share the information that I know of. My view on this is if you want to reuse kitchen gloves, because these are quite sturdy and I can do quite a lot with these. After you've finished your soap making, get some soap and wash these thoroughly on the outside. Soap and water, really, really good wash. Make sure you get off any lye or any raw soap batter before you take them off. And then you can take them off, you can go and peg them up somewhere or hang them wherever you hang your gloves. and then you can wrap them up once they're dry and put them away for next time. So that's a good tip. Now for other skin protection, the best practice is to wear long sleeves on your arm, so a long sleeve top, long sleeve, long pants, and covered in shoes, so shoes and socks. Basically, the more covered skin, the better. Some people say that they don't necessarily recommend this. Say for example, if you got a big lye splash on your arm, when lye comes into contact with the skin, it doesn't necessarily burn straight away, but the longer it sits on the skin, the more chance it has of damaging the skin and creating a lye burn. So really you want to get it off straight away. And some people say, oh, but if I've got all these clothes on, that can be even harder to get off. You know, you've got to take everything else off. Some people prefer to just have short sleeves and have their skin a bit bare and just, you know, rinse it off. That's not best practice though, but that's one angle that some soap makers and some professional soap makers make soap with short sleeves. So that's up to you to make up your own mind about that. Also, I think it's really important to generally pay good attention to hygiene. So personal hygiene, but also hygiene in your kitchen area or wherever you're soap making. Just make sure you're cleaning everything properly, wiping down all of your benches, washing your hands, making sure tap handles, nothing has any soap on it. You can use a mild kind of vinegar solution to do a final wipe down. That will help neutralise any last little bits of kind of mild caustic substance that might be on your sinks or anything like that. On the subject of vinegar though, do not use vinegar on your skin if you get any lye on your skin. You must read the first aid instructions on your material safety data sheet. They will probably say, because that's what mine says, to rinse the area in fresh water for 15 minutes. There is no mention of vinegar. Vinegar is fine to wipe your benches down with. Rinse with water only and get it off as soon as you can. The next important area of soap making safety is protecting your respiratory system. When you mix sodium or potassium hydroxide with water or another liquid to make your lye solution for your soap recipe, if you use room temperature liquid, and depending on the liquid, some gas vapor fumes will form from this, and they are caustic too. You do not want to breathe in those fumes. There are a couple of things that you can do. First and foremost, wear a mask. This is a P2 mask. It's not probably best practice. The best practice would be to wear a proper respirator, and that will protect you from all kinds of fumes. But they're a bit harder to come by and they're quite expensive. I don't imagine everybody in the world is going to have access to one of those. But if you use one of these at a minimum, if you can, and make your soap in a well-ventilated area. The other really important tip is to use ice water to make your lye solution. If you can really reduce the temperature of whatever it is, the liquid is that you're using, that greatly reduces, if not almost completely reduces, the amount of gas and vapor that can come off that lye solution. When you add your lye to the water, and remember you always add the sodium or the potassium hydroxide to the water and never the other way around. So using about a 50% ice amount for whatever liquid you're using for your lye solution, that will really reduce that temperature. It's really great. I learned that trick initially from watching videos by Marie from Tree Marie Soapworks. Her YouTube channel is amazing. She is an incredible soap making artist. But I've also seen other soap makers on YouTube doing it recently too. So yeah, definitely use the ice and you won't get that gas reaction anywhere near as much when you add your hydroxide to the water. In the rare occasion where you or somebody else in your household happens to ingest some sodium or potassium hydroxide, make sure that you already know what to do by reading your material safety data sheet. But what they say is to rinse out the mouth repeatedly until no more product is in the mouth, and then seek medical attention straight away. Make sure that that gets checked out. And now we're up to the final section, so storage and just some more general handling tips. Something I want to say that I'm not sure everybody knows about is that sodium hydroxide, or caustic soda, or potassium hydroxide, they are hygroscopic. And what that means is they attract water. So if you left a bowl of this stuff uncovered on your bench, it would attract moisture from the environment, the atmosphere around it, and eventually, if you left it long enough, it would eventually become a little puddle of water. Very dangerous caustic water. So for that reason, it's important to store your hydroxides in a dry environment. I keep my sodium hydroxide in my cupboard with my soaps. I use little dehumidifiers in there, and that just keeps them nice and they don't get any lumps in there. I know that they're nice and dry, and that also keeps the quality for longer. Now, what about containers and materials? For most home soap makers, the most accessible material to use is polypropylene plastic. Now, there are many different types of plastic. There are others that you can also use for soap making, and please, again, do your own research on this. But one of the most common ones is polypropylene. That's why I like it. It is number 5 plastic. So when you see on the bottom, you will usually see the little arrow triangle with the number 5 in the middle, and often you'll see PP underneath. That is polypropylene plastic. That is perfectly appropriate for mixing your lye solution, for mixing your soap solution, your raw soap batter, and for putting utensils and things like that in as well. When it comes to utensils, I just recommend stainless steel or silicone spatulas. They're pretty good too. I quite like using them, but make sure that you just use your equipment just for soap making. Don't use glass with your soap making. I know that in my beginner soap making video, I actually had my pre-made lye solution. I did have it stored in a glass jar. I do not recommend that. I didn't know back then. I had seen other people using glass. I had seen Soap Queen using glass Pyrex bowls and jugs and things in her videos, and I didn't educate myself properly, and I thought that was okay. But lye solutions can over time etch glass, which can lead them to be prone to breaking. So just steer clear of glass. Just stick with polypropylene plastic and stainless steel. Most food storage containers and microwave cooking containers and things like that, they're usually all polypropylene, so they're fine to use. A final little note about storing sodium or potassium hydroxide: keep them in their original containers. Treat it as you would treat any other household chemical. Make sure it's kept away from children. And if you need to, lock it up. Put it in a locked cupboard. If in particular you are making advanced lye solutions, your master batching lye or anything like that, they must be stored in appropriate containers with screw top lids so that they're very secure. They need to be labelled properly. Do some more research on that. Make sure they're stored very securely and safely, and preferably locked away, especially if you have young children around, or any children, or anybody. Just keep it secure, and that way everybody's safe and you won't need to worry. Just remember that all of this safety information, it goes for soap batter and soap in general as well. Until your soap bars or your liquid soap is fully saponified and that chemical reaction is complete and you've got beautiful soap, that soap batter is still caustic. Wherever it goes, make sure that it's kept safe too. And finally, I just want to thank you for listening to all of this. It is really important to me and means a lot to me to know that you've listened all the way through to the end. I know these videos are chunky, but they are important. And I want you to be able to take this information and feel really confident now and go, okay, yeah, I didn't know all of that. I know that now. I know what I've got to do before I make my next soap batch. I've got to read the instructions on everything and do a bit more research, and I know what I'm doing. I wish you all the best and heaps of fun with your soap making. I can't wait to make more videos and all keep learning together. Final note, I know I keep saying final note. I bought this book recently, Scientific Soap Making by Kevin Dunn. I had wanted to buy it for ages. I should have bought it years and years ago. This is a great resource. If any of you out there want to really get into proper soap making practice and really understand the science behind it, this is a really fantastic book. I will put a link to where you can buy the book underneath. It's pretty accessible. I've only just got it yesterday actually. It's just arrived, so I've got a bit of reading to do, and I probably will refer to this book a few times in videos to come and share some little gems out of this, because I'm sure there's a lot in here that I don't know. So yeah, we've got to keep learning. Alright, thanks everyone. Take care of yourselves. Happy soap making, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!